Welcome to the Studio Success Formula Podcast, the business school for dance studio owners. And now for your host, Clint Salter.
Hello, it's Clint here from Studio Success Formula, and welcome to another week and another podcast episode. Now, I hope you had an awesome week last week, and if you didn't catch last week's episode about planning for a successful 2016, the three things that you need to do so that you can plan for success for the new year, make sure you go to our website, studiosuccessformula.com, and check out our episode from last week. Or also make sure you subscribe on iTunes so that you never do miss one of our podcast episodes, because we are here to help you, dance studio owners, to grow your business. Now, I had an interesting conversation with a couple of our members in our Dance Studio Owners Association last week, and I thought to myself, you know what, I've got to do a podcast episode on this because it comes up all the time. I'm wondering if you can guess what I'm talking about. I'm sure some of you have. It's when a student leaves our studio who we have put time and energy, we've gone above and beyond to give them amazing training and amazing experience at our studio, and one day they don't come back. You know, that feeling, I think we feel grief. I know I did as a studio owner when, I'd lose one of those students. And so today I want to mainly talk about retention and one specific area when it comes to retention, because retention is such a huge topic, and I just want to kind of zoom in and focus on one thing that I know is going to greatly improve the retention rate in your studio. But before we jump into that, let's talk about when a student that we have worked with for many years, that we're greatly attached to, leaves us. And I know we go through so many different emotions, and we'll talk to our partner and they'll say, you're running a business, and you should be able to disconnect from those things and just let it go. And and I've given that advice before to people, but I know that it hits home a lot harder than that. I know that our studio families, our students become part of our family, because generally we see them a lot more than we see even our own families. But one piece of advice that I would really love to give you is that people come and go in and out of our lives all the time. It's not just those dance students that we don't want to let go. It's partners, it's lovers, it's best friends, it's family members, and that is how life goes. And so I think when we can really work on the acceptance piece of this, when we can accept that not everyone's going to be around forever, and you know what, that's okay, because people come, I believe anyway, that people come into our lives to teach us lessons, to provide us with amazing experiences, and to help us grow for human beings. And sometimes that means that they're not in our life for a very long time. Sometimes they're in it for a very long time. But I want you to remember that. I really want you to remember that when there is that student that leaves you and really does break your heart. I mean, we've all been there. I want you to really want you to be thankful for the time that you've had with them. I want you to be thankful and appreciative and proud of the work and the love and support that you've given this dance family or this child in their growth, not only as a dancer and performer, but as a human being. And I want you to really accept, and this is probably the hardest piece of it, is to accept that they are moving on and that that's okay. That's okay. Don't try and hold on so tightly to them that you suffocate them. It's okay. Everyone is here to experience life in different ways. And I don't want to get woo-woo on a lot of you, but if you've listened to me before, you know that, I do talk about this stuff because I think that it's really important. Time and time again, when you look at people that are running, million, multi-million, billion-dollar companies who are facing the same things. They face people that leave their company or big customers that pull out of contracts after 10 years. I mean, they are facing, a really similar thing. And when people ask them, how did you move through? How did you get through that? It all comes back to their mindset, and the practices that they're doing every day to ensure that as often as possible, they're operating at their optimum, their optimum capacity. They're operating with their optimum, amount of happiness. So I think really working on your mindset is going to be the best thing you can do to be able to move through these tougher times. Because sure, you might have a day where you don't feel good about it, or 2 days, but we don't want that to go into weeks or months. We want you to be able to bounce back very quickly and again get back into focusing on those existing students and parents and dance families to give them the best experience possible. So after that little chat, I wanted to talk about one piece of the retention pie that I think is really crucial. Now, when I teach retention, and we do teach it in our programs and in the association because it's one of those things that is super important. You would have heard me say before, if you've listened to this podcast, it costs you 7 times more to enroll a new student as it does to retain an existing student. And I don't think enough time and energy or resources is spent really looking after those students that come in to your studio. The hard work is not getting them in. The hard work starts when they sign that enrollment form. Well, it's not hard work. It's just where you really need to put some time and energy into is, getting them to be part of your dance family. And that can be quite, it can be quite daunting for most people walking into a new dance school where everyone knows each other and are buddies. So when it comes to retention, there's 3 people that help us when we're looking at this concept of retaining our students. The first is our teachers. Our teachers play a huge role in retention, in keeping those students. The second are the things that we do for the students themselves, to keep them engaged, to keep them feeling part of our community. And the third people that we need to look after are our parents. Now, in each of those, student, teacher, and parent, there's 3 or 4 things that you need to be doing across the year to really ensure that you are meeting their needs, you are showing them love, you are supporting them. But I just want to pick out one thing that you can do when it comes to your parents. And the reason I wanted to focus on this one today is because I know it's one that is a game changer. I know if you implement the strategy that I'm going to talk to you about in today's episode, that it's going to lift your retention by at least 5, potentially 10% within the first 90 days of implementing this strategy. Now, we all have students leave, right? We have those students who just leave and don't tell us, and it's like they just go MIA, right? They go into a cave or into a dungeon and we never see them again. And then we get people that give us excuses, and we get things like, we can't afford it anymore. Oh, Susie's really busy with school and, it doesn't really work for us. Oh, the timetable doesn't work for us anymore. Or, oh, we're going to try gymnastics. And so we get all these excuses. And guys, 90% of the time they are excuses, because when we ask someone why they're leaving, or we get an email from someone saying, oh, we're leaving because of XYZ, most of the time they are lies. And they're not bad lies. They're lies because people don't want to hurt our feelings. And what happens is, and it's not like they just make this decision either that they're going to leave. It's because generally something has been happening over and over and over again, maybe over a certain amount of weeks or months or potentially years. and they just get over it. Now, really what they should be doing is coming to you and having a conversation with the problem or the challenge that they're coming up against. But you've got to realize that people don't like confrontation. And unless you're proactively opening up the lines of communication as a studio owner to your customers, your students, your dance parents, your dance families, they're not going to say anything, which means they're not going to say anything, and eventually they're just going to leave if they're unhappy with something. So how do you get across this? Because you don't want to go up to someone and say, hey, have you got to, are you going to leave? If you've got a problem, that's definitely not what we want to do. But one strategy when it comes to parents, out of the 4 main ones, one of the things I want you to do is implement what I like to call my 90-day call. Now, we did this in our dance studio. We had a phenomenal retention. And again, we have passed this on to many of our program members, association members, and we're implementing it with lots of our mastermind clients who are in our inner circle as well, which is our 12-month mentoring program. And what I want to talk to you about is this 90-day call strategy. And so every 90 days, I want you as a studio owner or one of your staff members, it's a receptionist or your office manager, to call each of your parents. So let me give you a bit of a calendar for 2016. So in January, you're going to call everyone. In April, you're going to call everyone. In July, you're going to call everyone. And in October, you're going to call everyone. Now, I hope you've all written that down. Have you? In January, call everyone. In April, call everyone. In July, call everyone. In October, call everyone. So there's just kind of 2 months in between where they won't get a specific call from you. Okay, rock and roll. So I know what you're thinking though. You're like, but Clint, that's going to take a lot of time, to call all of our students. And I know, but it is worth every single second. Now, like I said, these calls don't need to come from you directly. You can have your office staff help you with these. Now, look, studies show us time and time again that our customers, more than ever, want to be engaged and feel part of a community, right? They want a sense of belonging. You would have seen all those statistics and everything on Facebook and all those social media sites saying we have never been more connected, yet we're so disconnected from life and what we want from life. What we really want as human beings is to have real life connections. We want to be able to feel, we want to be able to touch, we want to have face-to-face conversations with people that are not online. But what we do is we build up these personalities online where we're connecting with people, but they're not fulfilling. And so your dance studio is the incubator, is the perfect place for you to be building a community that belongs to something that's bigger than just them. Now, you can't kind of build this from those parents that just like drop their child at classes and pick them up and they're like, well, I kind of dropped them off and I picked them up and then I paid the dance studio money and that's kind of it. And I never hear from them and we go to a recital or a concert once a year and that's kind of it. Of course, that parent isn't going to be too upset when they pull their child out of your classes because there is no connection there. Okay, so we want to have a phone call with everyone every 90 days to just further, and I talk about the other strategies in our programs, but this one in itself is going to be an absolute game changer for you. So let's say, okay, what are you going to say on the call though, is probably what you're thinking, Clint. That's great, but Clint, hey, I don't like picking up the phone and I would have no idea what I need to say. So there are 3 things that I'm going to encourage you to ask on that call or your own variation of these questions. You've got to make it authentic, with you and in line with your studio's values. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to check in to see how their child is going. So you might say, hey, Mrs. Smith, It's Clint here from Clint's Dance Studio, and I just wanted to give you a quick call to check in with you and see how Susie is going in our dance classes. We're really loving having her part of our studio and part of our family, and we're getting great feedback from our teachers on her energy, and she's trying really hard. But I just wanted to give you a quick call to get your thoughts and just to make sure that, you know, she is having a great time here. So you want to have a conversation that's very natural, and see how they're going. And that parent is then going to say a couple of things. They're going to go, is something wrong? The first time you do these calls, they will be shocked because they're like, why are you calling? People only call when something's wrong. And so we'll quickly really switch their way of thinking there and say, no, nothing's wrong at all. We just wanted to give you a quick call to see how, you know, Susie's going in class. And then they go, oh, great. No, she really loves it. She's having a great time. You know, I've noticed that she's, you know, been happier and she's more creative and whatever. That's one option. The parent then might say, oh, I'm so glad you called. I was actually going to call you. She came out of class really upset the other day. Or you're going to have a version of that. Or the third thing they might say is, look, I don't know if we're going to continue actually. She's been unhappy for about the last month, and I was actually thinking of pulling her out next week. Also, something that can happen and can be said by a parent. So straight away, you can see why this call is valuable, because two of those answers are not positive ones, and they're things that you can fix very, very quickly. And so then you go on the road to kind of digging deeper into the challenge or the problem and providing them with a solution. And you only get off the phone when you are both, you know, when they're happy with the solution that you provided and you're happy that you can kind of move forward. So the second thing you then want to ask, depending on what they've said to your first kind of checkpoint, is, look, I'd love to get some feedback from you. As you know, here at Clint's Dance Studio, we're always really striving to provide the best customer services and training as possible. And we can only really do that by getting feedback from you, you know, our dance family. So I'd love to know, do you think there's anything that we could be doing better in our studio that would serve you better, that would support you better, or your child as a student, as a dance family? And look, I want you to be honest here, because like I said, we are all about improving what we do. Okay, that is the best way to ask that question. You don't want to say straight out, what do we do wrong? Or what has upset you recently? You'll get two very different answers, because people don't want to go into, you know, people don't want to kind of go, well, you did this wrong and you did that wrong and that was really unprofessional and you were late giving me notice on that recital or whatever it might be. It's really about the way you frame your questions. So be really mindful of that, because we want to get the best answers as possible. And the improvements are things that are really going to help you, especially if you see a certain pattern. People keep saying the same thing, and it could be around your communication. It could be around a certain teacher. It could be a way you handled a certain situation. It's going to be helpful. Now, the third question that I want you to ask, now these calls shouldn't go for any more than 10 minutes. So keep them short and sweet. If they answer a lot of them when you do the check-in question in question 1, well, then you don't need to worry about the rest of them. The third question I like to ask is like, hey, thank you so much for that feedback. It's really valuable. I've made some notes here, and I'll make sure that, you know, we come back to you with, you know, how we're improving the studio or something along those lines. And then say, look, I'd love to, you know, wrap up our conversation. And again, really appreciate your time by just asking you, what does little Susie really love about our studio? You know, why do you come back every week? And you really want to listen for that answer. They're things that you'll end up being able to use in your marketing materials. You know, these are things that parents are actually saying, not things that you are making up. Like, it's fun, you know, it's fun, it's easy, you know, build confidence, like those words that everyone's using. These are going to be words straight out of your parents' mouth that you're going to be able to use. And you never know, during this conversation, you might have a great candidate who just raves on and on and on about your studio. They're so so in love with it that it might be a great opportunity for you to say, you know what, thank you so much for sharing it. Wow, that's really warmed my heart. I'm super thrilled and excited that you just said that, because that's what we're all about. Now, you can say no to this, but would you be comfortable if I, wrote that down and used what you just said as a testimonial and put your name next to it? Would you be comfortable with that? If not, totally okay. That's not the reason for my call, but I'd love to be able to share your experience with other people that are looking to come and be part of our dance studio, be part of our family. Great opportunity. Why not ask that question? If you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. So this is the format for your 90-day calls. Now, we kind of go into more details and scripts, in our programs, but I've really stepped you through how to make this process work for you in your studio. Awesome sauce. Now, remember, I love the saying, love and support cannot be bought. So please show love to your dance families and start your 90-day calls in January. Maybe you even want to start them now at the end of November or December, but start calling, because it's really going to be life-changing. And I don't say that to be dramatic. It actually really is going to be life-changing for your studio and the students that you're keeping if you implement this strategy. Awesome. Well, I hope you really enjoyed today's episode. It's a big one for me, and no one picks up the phone anymore. So I would love you to pick up the phone and talk to your dance families. Please get to know them a little bit better. The lifetime value of your customer can be worth so much to you, not just from a monetary point of view, but from a personal perspective. And we want to keep hold of those students so that they don't leave us and go somewhere else, where because generally we could easily fix something that has made them, that they feel like has made them leave our studio, but we can fix it super quick. And these 90-day calls are really going to help you to get to the heart of some of the challenges before these little small challenges and concerns become massive challenges and concerns. And we don't want to get to that problem stage in any of this. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. We are cruising right through November super, super quickly. I hope you are having a great end, towards the end anyway, of 2015. And again, if you didn't listen to last week's episode of the 3 things you need to do to plan for success in 2016, check out studiosuccessformula.com or come over to our Facebook page, please, and say hello to me. It's a great opportunity as well for you to comment or let me know what you'd love to hear about on this podcast, facebook.com/Studio Success Formula. Take care, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
Are you enjoying the Studio Success Formula podcast? Then we'd love for you to share the love. We want to help more dance studio owners become go-to studios, so we'd greatly appreciate you writing us a review on iTunes. For taking the time out to do so, every month, Clint will be selecting one lucky dance studio owner to receive a Power Business Coaching session. Simply visit the iTunes store today, search for Studio Success Formula, click on ratings and reviews, and then write your review. Thanks in advance. Take care, and we'll see you next time.